A couple of days ago, I joined a conversation on LinkedIn. And the question was, someone had made a big, bold claim. And they said they are making $20,000 per month just selling articles. And all the articles had been written by ChatGPT. And they portrayed this as this new opportunity that everyone can become rich. It just takes you a couple of seconds, write an article about X, and you can just sell this like for big bucks and become rich really quickly. Now, from my perspective, this is a total joke. Obviously, the person is just pretending that it's possible, probably in order to sell you like a course on how to become rich really quickly. Let's talk about how you can actually make $20,000. There are writers who are offering to write a 2,500 word article for $10. They're just 0.4 cents per word. Now, Fiverr, of course, takes a 20% cut. So in order for you to make $20,000 per month, you need to sell 2,500 articles. But that means you actually have to write 83 articles per day. You probably need to talk to a couple of hundred people who are just pitching you the idea. So you have to add this time for client communication on top of that. And let's say then you take the client's requirements and you're asking ChatGPT to write an article and you're just sending this to the client. This is not the end of this. They're probably gonna ask for a couple of revisions, meaning further communication on top of what you already spent. Then we have the high class. This means you're paying at about $1 per word, meaning a 2,500 word article would cost a customer $2,500. That's much more manageable, and you can just create 8 articles per month to get to 20,000. 8 articles. We're not going to deduct any Fiverr fees because at that range, you usually have to build a personal brand in order for people to contact you directly, so you don't have any middlemen and you don't have to share the cut. But in this price class, it's all about building relationships, building your personal brand, having some in-depth conversation with clients. So usually not just like one article. Someone might look for like a long-term engagement and they want to have the best of the best. Ideally, they want to have a writer who specializes in a certain niche or industry. So here the clients actually have much bigger expectations. I'm going to show you what actually the expectations are in that price class in a minute. But just to tell you this, if you ever would try to submit a ChatGPT article in that price class, that means the end of your contract like this, because then everyone is going to be very disappointed. At that price class, the expectations are the highest. So let me show you what is actually required to play in that price class. You need to follow this 5-step process to be able to play. The first part is research. That means you have to spend a lot of time gathering information that go into the article. And that just doesn't mean that you would take someone else's article and you're just using ChatGPT to rewrite it. At that price point, people want to have original content. They want to have content which is pushing the knowledge forward. Better quality than exists in the market field. You want to be the best article about topic X. That means you actually have to, either you are already a very respectable expert in that particular niche of the client, or you have to do extra research. And even if you're the expert, you usually have to do research on top of that. That might mean you have to read other articles, you might have to read Wikipedia, watch YouTube videos, podcasts, you might have to read some books, you might order some books in order for you to get all the material necessary. You might have to talk to your clients, you might have to interview some employees at the company, you might have to talk to some of their customers. There is a much bigger aspect focusing on the research part in order for you to have this unique information that nobody else has. Now, just to highlight this, ChatGPT can only write about something that someone already has written about. It cannot create new content. It cannot create new insights. It can only take something and transform it into something else that looks similar. So in this price class, you're actually the one creating content that the language model might be trained upon, because the language model has no understanding of any of the new information that you're currently processing. Now then, once you have done your research, in step 2, you have to create an outline. You have to plan your article. That could take any form. You could use like a Word document, create a bullet point list. You could create little stickers and you can plan the different steps in your outline. And you have to think about structuring because you're planning an experience for the reader. So it's not just important to write the article, but it's also important to structure it the right way. So someone continues reading, because at that price level, you don't want to have someone just coming to the website, and then clicking the back button after 10 seconds. You want to have someone who is reading this all the way through, from top to bottom. So this will also take you some time, like in putting a lot of thought process into like how do you going to structure your article. Then in step 3, you would actually write the article based on your outline and based on the knowledge and the research that you have done in step 1. This will take some time depending on your writing speed and how familiar you are with the topic and how easy it is to present this information, because sometimes even if you've done the most detailed research, if you want to write an article about quantum physics, it might just be difficult to make this understandable for a reader. At that price class, people pay you to make something understandable. We're not writing an article for some search engine, we're writing an article for real human readers, and the article has to have a certain purpose. It has to change something in the reader. It has to put an idea in their mind. It has to convince the reader to take a certain action after reading it. Then in step 4, you have to do editing and proofreading. This could include doing a spell check, grammar check. You want to read out the article out loud so you can hear how it sounds. And sometimes you might not even be the ideal person to do the proofreading, because some people are just good at writing and they don't see their own errors anymore. So it might actually that you have to outsource proofreading and editing to someone else. You have to put aside like a little part of your budget to pay the editing or proofreader to make your article shine. This step also includes optimizing your article for SEO. If there are certain keywords, you have to do like a check. If the keywords have the right density, that you don't over-optimize and you don't under-optimize. And like that, you have additional information about the article, such as meta description or having a catchy title that people would actually click if they saw this title and Google. Now, part 5 might not be responsible of everyone. A lot of times people will just submit the article and then the customer will take care of it. But if this was your own article, you of course have to do the promotion. You have to create additional resources to promote the article, social media posts, email marketing, having like maybe like a long-term campaign to push this out. Okay, let's say you get the idea. You really see you have to be in a high class area if you want to make 20K per month. So how can you use ChatGPT and other AI tools to make your life a whole lot easier so you are actually able maybe to take on a couple of extra articles per month, or just to prevent you from burning out? Let's go through it step by step. Step 1, research. You still gonna have your call with your customer. So the customer already has an idea what they want. Or if they give you totally free hand, then you have to come up with these ideas yourself. You could use ChatGPT to do a little bit of brainstorming. You could share some ideas that you already have and ask ChatGPT to generate some additional ideas what you could talk about. Then you can take your own ideas and take the ideas that ChatGPT has generated, merge them together and ask ChatGPT again to generate like even more creative ideas. The more input you're putting in, the better ChatGPT's outputs are gonna be. You're still gonna need to do your research. There's going to be articles, podcasts, YouTube videos, but you can use ChatGPT to help you filter out the content that is actually worth researching. For example, you could take an article and ask ChatGPT to generate a summary or like an outline of the key takeaways of specific articles. So it's much easier for you to decide. You might compile a list of 10 articles, then you're getting a summary of every single article, of every single video transcript, of every single transcript of the podcast, and then you just reading the different summaries and you're deciding which content seems to be worth reading in full or listening to in full. So this is again going to save you a lot of time in order to optimize your process. Then you can take all of your notes, put them together in a document. It doesn't have to look pretty, it can look really ugly. And you can ask ChatGPT to take your notes and to organize your notes into a better structure. So it's much easier for you to actually distill all the information that you have learned, all the research that you have done, into something more digestible. So it's much easier if you see it clearly outlined in a bullet point form on a piece of paper. It's much easier to plan your outline. So again, that saves you a lot of time. Then you can take ChatGPT and you give it your organized notes and you can ask it to write an article based on the research information, and it can do a pretty good job outlining the specific ideas. And then you're taking this outline and you're going to start editing it. And you might add some information, or you might have a conversation with ChatGPT to say, I want you to add this specific information to the outline. Now, once you have the outline, what you're going to do is you're going to add your information because you are the one consumed all the research materials. You're going to just add like a couple of bullet points under each headline for the outline, and you're going to highlight what you want to communicate in each specific section. Now, once you have this outline ready, you have to take this outline and you have to feed it back to ChatGPT in order for it to write sections of the output. You don't want to ask ChatGPT to write the entire article. It's just going to confuse it and you're not going to get good results. What you want to do is you want to go section by section and you're going to define the persona that ChatGPT should take on. You're defining the writing style, the vocabulary, the creativity, whatever writing style you prefer. And then you're giving it an individual section and you ask it to write a section for your article. And then you're going through your outline and you're repeating this section by section by section. You're going to take all the outputs from ChatGPT, you're going to put them in a Word document until you have the copy for the entire article. Now comes the time to do your real work. Now you already have a generated document, but this is by no means deliverable. So what you have to do is you actually have to read this entire thing and see where there are still weaknesses and flaws. You have to fact check what it has generated. You have to evaluate the writing style if that fits the persona. And then you have to start editing this by hand, meaning you go in there and you're fixing a couple of different tasks, and you can use ChatGPT again to help you do some time saving this aspect. For example, you could give it like a sentence and you say, rewrite a sentence in the following style if you want to have it changed. And you might even ask it to give you some variety, like give me 5 different ways how I could say this. Now what this does, it takes small little tasks that are boring and repetitive, but still take up a lot of your mental energy, and you externalizing it by giving it to the AI. You don't have to break your head about how to rewrite this sentence 10 different ways. You're just going to let the AI do its job. Then you're going to take the best result that you like the most from the 10 recommendations, or however many you want, and you're going to take this and you're going to fix it. So you're going to be able to progress much faster throughout this entire article by every time you're running into a roadblock or there is something difficult to rephrase, you're just asking ChatGPT to do it for you in a specific style. Now, once you have added this entire text, now it's time to feed this text back to ChatGPT. And again, you can use that, ask it to write an introduction to your article and write a conclusion statement at the end. Usually you have to edit this unless you give it really precise instructions of what you have your introduction and conclusion to look like. Now you're also going to fix this, and then you have basically a ready-made article. Now at that price class, people have very high expectations. You want to then start your editing and proofreading process. And what I like to recommend is using other AI tools to do a lot of the bulk work. Meaning you can put it into Grammarly, you can put it into Language Tool, Pro Writing Aid. Now at that stage, I recommend to first do a preliminary spell and grammar check. You can start with Grammarly, Language Tool, Pro Writing Aid, or Writeful, or any of the other grammar checkers, and like even the Word Grammar Checker. And the reason why you want to have a couple of them, because they tend to find certain mistakes. Like some are really good, like Grammarly, for example, will find 98% of the mistakes, but sometimes there's a particular sentence it doesn't pick up on. So by just doing the same text a couple of times in different spell and grammar checkers, you will be able to get 99% or more of all the issues resolved in no time. And then what I would recommend, depending on your audience, you might want to optimize it for readability. You can take your entire article, put it into Hemingway, and this will highlight sentences that are difficult to understand, that are too long and too complex with too many commas. It can really quickly help you to break up some sentences and make it more readable, so you can reduce the reader's age if necessary. Next, we're going to put all this text into Word, and we're going to use another AI feature, in this case text to speech, and we're going to use Word's read aloud feature to read out the entire article for us. And what this does, so we're just going to close our eyes and we're just going to listen. Is the flow of the article working? Like, it's really becomes pretty clear once you start listening to it. You will see like, oops, like there seems to be like a disconnect between those two sentences, and then you can go there and fix it. So you're going to repeat this until the article from start to finish sounds just smooth. You can then take one of your favorite AI SEO tools. You can use ChatGPT and ask it to write a meta description and write a title. And in this case, it really makes sense to ask it to generate a lot of possible titles based on the entire article. And you can just pick and choose one, do a couple of tweaks, and then you have your ready-made article ready for submission done. Now, depending on where you're publishing it, let's say on a blogging platform, you want to add also the relevant images, the relevant internal and external links. And then once you have it, you want to publish the entire article. You can take your article and you can ask ChatGPT to write a promotional LinkedIn post or Twitter thread for your content to promote it. And then you take again the social media content based on very specific instruction. You probably need to generate like a good template for your LinkedIn post so they actually look uniquely to you and match your writing style. Then you can just tweak this, edit this, and then you can put this into your scheduling app. For example, I use SocialBee for my promotional content. For Twitter, you can use Typefully or Tweet Hunter to schedule your Twitter threads. I also recommend to use Missing Letter, which is really great at extracting a couple of key sentences so you can turn your article evergreen and space it out like over a long period of time, like let's say 12 months, to continuously re-promote it over time. You can use ChatGPT to ask you to generate some ideas, for example, for YouTube Shorts or TikToks or Instagram Reels. So you can record those based on those ideas. You can use ChatGPT to ask it to write an email newsletter to promote the article to your email list. And then again, you edit your email template and you fixing like the way you want to have it to sound. And then you have another form of promotion ready. So as you can see, there is still work involved in creating an article at that price class. So, but you can save yourself a lot of time because there's a lot of different steps along the way, which actually take up a lot of time, unnecessary time for mindless, stupid tasks that don't really require you to break your head apart. So you can just take mindless tasks, outsource it to the ChatGPT or other AI writing tool, and then you can save yourself time, meaning you could possibly save like maybe 10 hours for an article like this when you're creating this really strategically with your content production process in place. This will allow you to take on more article writing projects as a professional writer, meaning it's easier for you to get to your 20K, and you're also going to be way more relaxed and less burned out because each article requires less amount of work. Now, if you're interested in learning more about ChatGPT and other AI tools, I highly recommend that you subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, smash the like button, and if you have any questions, please leave them in a comment below. I might make another video about this. You can also check out my AI newsletter where I share all of my AI tool guides. You can download this completely for free, and I see you in the next one. Bye!